So are you a golfer who just really struggles to get any kind of consistently solid contact when the ball's on the ground, whether it be irons, hybrids, fairway woods? Well, if you are, you just might be a golfer who sways too much during their swing, and that is absolutely killing your ball striking. But the good news is, I'm going to show you how to stop that sway and get you hitting some of the best shots ever. So, swaying in the golf swing. First of all, what is it? And why does it make it so difficult in order for you to strike the ball well? Well, nowadays, everybody's filming their swings, cameras on the phone, fantastic. When you've got this face-on view, what you would notice with a golfer, and this could be you, could be a friend that you're watching, when they sway, that in their backswing, their hips move very laterally away from the target. And then, obviously, there's no real turn of the body, and they have to move a huge distance back in a very short space of time in order to get that good solid contact. Now, very occasionally, they'll get that right. Sometimes they won't do it enough, sometimes they might overdo it. And it is an absolute killer. So what you would see at the top of the backswing with somebody who sways is you can see the hips have moved a long way outside that right foot, whereas the better ball strikers in the world, you will see that the hips have turned more, and even though there might be a tiny bit of lateral movement, there's not a huge amount. So that's what it is. Why does it make it difficult? Well, when the golf ball's on the floor, we need to get the lowest point of our golf swing slightly ahead of the golf ball so that the club's traveling down and hits ball and then ground. And if you look face on at the swing is just basically the club moving in a circular motion around the body. And obviously for a circle to be nice and consistent, the middle needs to stay still, fairly still in the golf swing, and the width of the circle needs to stay the same. Now, if for argument's sake, the middle of my circle is moving around a lot, it's going to be incredibly hard to time where the low point is. So sometimes it could be behind, sometimes it might be just under the ball, sometimes it could be ahead. And what you'll see is when you're good with that low point control, that nice crisp strike, and we can see on TrackMan there, the low point's 3.3 inches ahead, which means the club has travelled down and hit ball and then ground. The path's been a little bit from the inside, the club face has been slightly closed there. That's my little draw, carrying 168 yards. And when I'm coaching people, these are pretty much the numbers I look at, because if that low point is consistent, and it does change a little bit with the clubs varying on where the ball position is in the stance, but if the low point's consistent, it means you're making contact with the golf ball in the same part of the golf swing every time. Therefore, it's easy to get strike, path to be consistent, and hopefully club face to be closer to where you need it to be. But like I said, that's the sway, and that's why we need to get rid of it. How are we going to get rid of it? That's the key thing. So what I want you to think about is how you turn your hips, particularly in the backswing. And a lot of people say, well, I just think it and I do it, but then when they swing, it doesn't happen. So I want you to think about that trail foot, so the right foot for the right-handed golfer. And as I start moving the club away, I want to feel like I'm going to push my foot that way. Now, obviously the ground's going to stop it, but as I try and push my foot that way, you'll see that hip goes back. So if I did it down the line, if I push the foot in, we can see that hip turns behind me. Now that's creating that pressure into that right side. And for a lot of golfers, as soon as you do that, it feels just a much more engaged way that they turn. So you'd have a few practice swings, feeling like pushing that foot. And you might even do some smaller swings to begin with. And then hit a couple of shots with that shorter swing. So again, really going to focus on just pushing that right foot into the ground that way. And straight away, good solid strike, low point 2.3 inches ahead, nice accurate shot, and even that one carrying 154 yards. Now, for the purpose of the video, I'm not going to do lots and lots like that, but you might want to do a good half dozen, getting that feel, and straight away you'll notice that the contact is much more crisp and much more consistent. And then you just obviously want to build that into the full swing. Feels very different. And you'll notice straight away how you start touching the ground, but touching the ground in a more similar place. Whereas when you've got this movement going on, you could be catching the ground here, you could be catching the ground here. Just incredibly difficult when the club's moving at speed to be consistent when you're moving around a lot. So once you've done some practice swings, again, really focus on that right foot, pushing for me towards the camera into the ground, get set. Again, felt lovely. 2.1 inches ahead. Path again a little bit from the inside. Club face pretty neutral and 164 carry. Now, obviously the video is about stopping the sway, but what you'll notice there with my swing is the club's always coming slightly from the inside. Now, if you are somebody who feels that they do a lot of this movement in the downswing, you can change your path, because the path is the direction the club is traveling at impact with the ball. Now, if your low point was behind, the club's traveling up. Now, if you watch, when the club travels up, the path actually starts working more left. So even if you are somebody that's working this way a little bit, by moving your low point further ahead, which you'll be consistently able to do by stopping the sway, the path won't be as poor. So there's huge benefits to stopping the sway, but like I said, if you don't use the ground properly to get you to turn, you are going to move laterally and all those bad habits are going to creep back in. So again, we're going to set up, really feel like, get that foot pushing into the ground, get me turning away from the ball. Now just pick that one a little bit, wouldn't have been very deep divot, but we see the low point still nearly 3 inches ahead. Again from the inside, club face slightly closed, and a little bit further at 172. And it's lovely. I mean, when I work on this face-to-face with golfers who have really moved around a lot over the years, the consistency, not just with the irons, but as they get into those longer clubs, the ability to get that ball and then ground strike is so important. And like I said, if you're turning, the middle of the circle staying much more still, then as you get the club to change direction, you move slightly towards the target. The pressure's in that lead side earlier because you haven't had to move as far, and it's easy then just to release through the golf ball. So let's go one final one, stopping that sway. Just turned it a little bit more than I wanted. But again, contact really solid. Low point 3 inches ahead. Again, path from the inside, club face slightly closed, and 162 yards. So like I said at the start of the video, if you are somebody who sways, it's really important to understand, first of all, what it is, because I think terminology gets thrown around in golf a lot. It's that lateral movement of the hips during the backswing. We need to get you turning rather than swaying. And the way you turn is you push that foot hard, like it's trying to go that way. The ground won't let it. If I lifted my foot up, the foot would go and the hip wouldn't turn. But that's going to get you turning. That's going to stop you swaying, and it's going to help you deliver the club so much more consistently and powerfully to the golf ball. You really will start hitting some of the best shots of your life.